second point, and I'm going to quote you, Christy, in your article. The second point we're going to address is wealth redistribution. You said, all we hear about is redistributing the wealth, which in and of itself amounts to socialism. I find this unfair to those who have worked hard to earn more money than other people. Generally, if you're in a high-paying position, you've worked your butt off in college and grad school and spent tons of money doing so in order to gain a greater understanding of your chosen field and to earn a degree that implies that you are qualified to work in the upper levels of said field. If you are putting in honest work at your job every day, a position that you worked hard to get to, then it can generally be agreed upon that you deserve the money you are earning, and the government has no right to take that from you and give it to those who did not earn that money. Our country has a huge problem with welfare parasites and abuse of our already flawed welfare system, and such a plan would only serve to exacerbate it. In picking up from the last section, I ended with the question, what are the people supposed to do who have been socially and economically marginalized? And that is my rebuttal to her wealth distribution claim here. Christy, if you want to talk about redistribution of wealth, first let's talk about taxpayer dollars going into the pockets and coffers of companies like Blackwater, which is the largest private mercenary army in the entire world. Or how about the tax dollars that go into the coffers of Halliburton and Kellogg Brown and Root through no-bid government contracts? Let's talk about FEMA's black budget, which is above congressional examination and audit and beyond reproach. What that means is that FEMA can go to the General Accounting Office with their hand out and demand a specific sum of money for their operating budget for that year without having to account for or explain how one dime of it is spent. They don't have to make that information privy to your congressman, to the Supreme Court, to the President of the United States, and to the taxpayers whose taxes pay for funding that budget. That's a black budget. Let's talk about utility companies, insurance companies, and banks. They've been deregulated over the course of the past 20 years, and deregulation has disproportionately hurt the poor because the poor get charged more than America's middle and upper classes for basic goods and services such as checking accounts, auto insurance, and life-sustaining utilities such as your electric or your gas heat. And this is because of something known as credit scoring in the rate tiering process. What that means is that if you're poor, you pay more than everybody else. How credit scoring works, and we're going to use the auto insurance as an example because auto insurance is mandatory in all 50 states except for perhaps New Hampshire, which was the last holding out state. Auto insurance is mandatory, and therefore somebody who has to drive to get to their $6 or $7 an hour job has to pay for auto insurance to do so legally. However, when you're poor and you have poor credit because of a lack of enough income to be able to pay your bills, the insurance rate you are charged is based on your credit score, which is encompassed in your insurance score. And the premise for this practice is that property and casualty carriers have decided that the poor are more likely to file a claim. Not that somebody else who is an irresponsible driver or a lousy driver is more likely to cause the need for a claim to be filed in the first place. In sum, what this translates to is that if you're low income and you have bad credit, you will be charged 30 to 50% more based on your credit score, on your ability to pay. Meanwhile, people from the middle and upper classes enjoy rate discounts at the expense of the poor, who are being forced to pay more. Having worked in the financial services industry, having worked in the property and casualty industry, I've seen drivers who've had clean driving records, 0 claims, get charged 35% more for their mandatory auto insurance than a driver of the same age, with the same car, with a worse driving record. But because the worst driver had a better credit score, because of having adequate income to be able to afford to pay their bills, they got a discount on their rate. Do you call that fair? Let's talk about the prison industrial complex, America's dirtiest and best kept secret. Prison convict labor, where everything from electronic components to sexy nighties at Victoria's Secret are made by civilian inmate slave laborers who are paid a rate of 22 cents an hour. Convict slave labor. The way it works under the program known as AR 210-35, the Civilian Inmate Labor Program, is this. You take somebody who is poor, who had maybe an $8 an hour job that didn't require anything beyond a high school education, and due to globalization they've been dumped out of their job and left poor in a society that alienates its poor. Unable to get another job, said person turns to the illicit economy in order to make money to be able to live and maybe support their family. And then as a result, they get caught and arrested and sent to prison, where they are assigned a new job at 22 cents an hour, doing anything from taking telephone reservations for TWA Airlines to making motherboards for computers to data entry for Chevron Texaco, and making sexy nighties for Victoria's Secret. Who's benefiting under that scenario? The investor class, the wealthy, the affluent, the upper middle class who can afford stock portfolios, which are managed by investment banking companies that form syndicates, investing in companies and corporations that profiteer off of civilian inmate labor. Corporate America benefits because the convict slave laborer is not paid federal minimum wage. These corporations don't have to pay Social Security taxes for them. They don't have to pay workman's comp. Convict slave labor. You want to talk about redistribution of wealth and money being stolen from producers and given to non-producers? Let's talk.